I almost lost a patient last Tuesday. Not on the operating table, not during a procedure, in my waiting room. 73 years old, retired school teacher. She had walked into my clinic that morning the same way she had for the past 11 years, quietly, politely, a little early. She sat down, folded her coat across her lap, and by the time my nurse called her name, her blood pressure had spiked to 198 over 114. She didn't feel it. That's the part that still troubles me when I think about her. She told me she felt fine. A little tired, maybe. She'd assumed that was just Tuesday. My name is Dr. Leonard Brooks. I'm a geriatric physician with 35 years of experience treating seniors, and I want to tell you something right now, before we go any further. What happened to that woman is not rare. It is happening every single day, in living rooms and kitchens and waiting rooms across this country, to people who are doing everything they believe is right, taking their pills, watching their salt, resting when they're tired, and still, silently, invisibly, their blood pressure is working against them. But here's what I have learned in 35 years of sitting across from patients in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. The missing piece is almost never another prescription. It's almost never something exotic or expensive or complicated. More often than not, the answer is already in their kitchen. It has been there the whole time. They just didn't know what to do with it. Today I'm going to give you 5 food-based strategies that I personally recommend to my senior patients, not instead of their medication, but alongside it. Strategies that address the real, underlying reason blood pressure becomes so difficult to control after 60. And I promise you, by the time we are done, you will understand your own body in a way that most people, including many patients I see, simply do not. Stay with me. This matters more than you may realize. Why blood pressure gets harder to control after 60. Before we talk about the 5 strategies, I need to explain something. Because if you understand the why, everything else will make sense in a way it probably hasn't before. When my patients ask me why their blood pressure keeps climbing even though they're doing everything right, I tell them about the garden hose. When you were young, your blood vessels were like a brand new garden hose. Supple, flexible, able to stretch and absorb the pressure of blood moving through them. That flexibility is doing a great deal of work for you. It's a built-in pressure management system. But as we age, and this is simply biology, not a personal failure, the walls of those vessels begin to change. They stiffen. They lose their elasticity. And a rigid hose cannot handle the same pressure a flexible one can. So your heart has to push harder. Your readings go up. And the medications that worked well at 55 start to feel inadequate at 68 or 72. Now here's the part that most people are never told. The primary driver of that stiffening, the process that ages your blood vessels faster than anything else, is not salt. It is not even stress. It is chronic, low-grade inflammation. Silent inflammation. The kind that produces no fever, no swelling you can see, no obvious symptom. It simply burns quietly, year after year, inside the walls of your arteries, hardening them, narrowing them, forcing your heart to labor over what should be effortless. And what controls that inflammation more than almost anything else? What you eat. 3 times a day, every day, your diet is either calming that fire or feeding it. That is not a metaphor. That is biology. And it is the reason that food is not a soft or secondary intervention. It is a frontline one. Let me show you exactly how to use it. Strategy 1. Eat your vegetables first, every single meal. This is the intervention I have recommended more than any other in the past decade, and every time I describe it, I watch people's faces do the same thing. A slight frown, a little skepticism. That's it? Vegetables first? Yes, but let me explain precisely why, because the mechanism is remarkable. When you sit down to a typical meal, some bread, some protein, some vegetables, maybe rice or potatoes, and you eat the starchy, carbohydrate-rich foods first, your blood sugar rises sharply within about 30 to 45 minutes. That spike triggers a surge of insulin, and that insulin surge, in turn, causes your blood vessels to constrict, to physically tighten. You are sitting at your dinner table, eating a perfectly normal meal, and your blood pressure is going up. You have no idea it's happening. It happens every single meal, every single day, in millions of people who are wondering why their numbers won't cooperate. Now here's what changes when you eat the vegetables first. The fiber in those vegetables, even just a few bites of broccoli, salad, or green beans, forms a physical gel in your stomach, a kind of slow-release mesh. And that mesh dramatically slows how fast sugar from the rest of your meal enters your bloodstream. The spike flattens. The insulin surge is blunted. The blood vessels relax instead of constrict. Same food, same plate, same portions, different order, different outcome. I have patients who changed nothing else. Same diet, same medications, same lifestyle, and simply started eating their vegetables first at every meal. Within 2 weeks, their postprandial blood pressure readings, that's blood pressure measured after meals, dropped noticeably. One of my patients, a 74-year-old former engineer, told me it was the first change that felt like it was actually working. Here's the order I recommend to every senior patient I see. Vegetables first, then protein, then carbohydrates last. Every meal, without exception. It costs nothing, it requires no prescription, and it works every time you do it. Strategy 2. Apple cider vinegar with every meal. 1 to 2 tablespoons in a full glass of water taken with each meal. I understand the skepticism. I had it myself when I first began looking at the research. Apple cider vinegar sounds like something your grandmother recommended for everything from a sore throat to a squeaky door hinge. But the science here is specific, and it's worth your full attention. The active compound in apple cider vinegar is acetic acid, and acetic acid does 2 things that matter enormously for blood pressure in seniors. First, it significantly improves insulin sensitivity. Remember the postprandial blood sugar spike we just discussed? Acetic acid blunts that spike at the cellular level. It helps your cells respond to insulin more efficiently, meaning your body needs to release less of it. Less insulin means less blood vessel constriction. Less constriction means lower pressure. Second, acetic acid has been shown in studies to stimulate the production of nitric oxide in the endothelium. That's the thin inner lining of your blood vessel walls. Nitric oxide is your body's natural vasodilator. It signals the smooth muscles surrounding your arteries to relax and open up. This is, in fact, the mechanism that an entire class of blood pressure medications attempts to replicate pharmaceutically. Apple cider vinegar does it naturally, at roughly $3 a bottle. As a geriatric physician, I must give you one important caution. Never drink it undiluted. Always mix it in at least 8 ounces of water. Undiluted vinegar can damage tooth enamel and irritate the esophagus, and at our age, we don't need additional digestive complications. Use a straw when possible to further protect your teeth. And if you have a history of acid reflux or peptic ulcers, please have a conversation with your own doctor before beginning this. For most of my patients without those contraindications, I recommend 1 glass at breakfast, 1 at lunch, 1 at dinner. Give it 3 full weeks before you assess. Check your numbers. The results, for many people, are genuinely meaningful. Strategy 3. 30 grams of walnuts 30 minutes before bed. Let me ask you something your doctor may never have asked you directly. What is your blood pressure doing while you sleep? Most people assume that nighttime is a rest period for the cardiovascular system, and it should be. In a healthy cardiovascular pattern, blood pressure drops during sleep, sometimes called the nocturnal dip, giving the heart a genuine opportunity to recover. But in a condition I see frequently in older patients, called nocturnal hypertension, that drop never happens. Pressure stays elevated or even spikes while the person lies in bed completely unaware. This is one of the most dangerous and most underdiagnosed patterns in geriatric cardiology. It is strongly linked to elevated stroke and heart attack risk. And your daytime blood pressure readings, the ones your doctor measures at the office, will not catch it. You can have a perfectly acceptable morning reading and still be experiencing dangerous pressure elevations every night. So why walnuts? And why before bed specifically? Walnuts are one of the richest plant-based sources of alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-form omega-3 fatty acid. They also contain meaningful amounts of melatonin and a compound called L-arginine, which is a direct precursor to nitric oxide, the same vasodilating molecule we discussed a moment ago. Together, these compounds work to reduce vascular inflammation, relax the walls of the blood vessels, and support the natural nocturnal dip that your cardiovascular system is supposed to make. Think of it as a gentle biological signal, sent at just the right time of night, a message to your arteries that says, "We can stand down now, we can rest." 30 grams. That is approximately 14 walnut halves, about a small palmful. Eaten 30 minutes before you go to sleep, every night. This is one of the simplest recommendations I make in my practice, and it is consistently one of the most effective. Write that down. 30 grams, 14 halves, 30 minutes before bed. Strategy 4. 3 cups of hibiscus tea every day. I want to tell you about a flower. A deep crimson flower that has been used medicinally across Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, and the Middle East for centuries. A flower that modern medicine has now studied extensively and confirmed what traditional healers understood long ago. That flower is hibiscus, and the tea brewed from it is one of the most clinically supported natural interventions for blood pressure that I am aware of. You may know it by other names depending on where your family comes from: sorrel in the Caribbean, carcadet across North Africa and the Middle East, agua de Jamaica throughout Latin America. If you have ever had a glass of that tart, deep red drink at a family gathering or a Caribbean restaurant, you have already experienced it. Here is the science that matters. Hibiscus flowers contain a group of compounds called anthocyanins, the same class of antioxidants responsible for the deep red and purple colors in berries and red cabbage. They also contain organic acids unique to hibiscus, including hibiscus acid. And these compounds act on your vascular system in a way that is strikingly similar to one of the most widely prescribed categories of blood pressure medication in the world: ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors work by blocking an enzyme, angiotensin-converting enzyme, that causes blood vessels to constrict. Hibiscus compounds inhibit that same enzyme, naturally, without the dry, persistent cough that sends so many of my patients back to the office complaining about their medication. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that daily hibiscus tea consumption reduced systolic blood pressure, the top number, by an average of 7 points in adults with mildly elevated readings. 7 points. That is a clinically significant reduction. That is the kind of number that changes a treatment plan. 3 cups per day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening. Hot or cold, both work equally well. No sugar or as little as possible, because sugar will directly undermine everything we are trying to achieve. A small spoon of honey is perfectly fine if you need it. One critical note, and I want to be direct about this. If you are already taking an ACE inhibitor, lisinopril, ramipril, enalapril, or any medication in that family, please speak to your doctor before adding regular hibiscus tea. Combining a natural ACE inhibitor with a pharmaceutical one can push your blood pressure too low, which carries its own serious risks. We want control, not overcorrection. For everyone else, this is one of the most pleasant daily habits I have ever recommended. A warm cup of deep red tea in the morning, another in the afternoon, another in the evening. Your cardiovascular system will respond. Strategy 5. Replace the wrong oils entirely. I want you to walk to your kitchen after this video. Open the cupboard where you keep your cooking oils, and look carefully at what is there, because what I am about to tell you may be the single most impactful practical change you can make for your long-term blood pressure. And it is also one of the changes that the processed food industry has invested heavily in keeping you confused about. Most of the cooking oils lining supermarket shelves, canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. Now, your body does need some omega-6. That is not in dispute. The problem is the ratio. For most of human history, people consumed roughly equal amounts of omega-3 and omega-6 fats. The modern Western diet has completely upended that balance. Today, the average person consumes somewhere between 15 and 20 times more omega-6 than omega-3. 15 to 20 times. And that extreme imbalance is one of the primary drivers of the chronic systemic inflammation we talked about at the very beginning of this conversation. The inflammation that stiffens arteries, narrows blood vessels, and makes blood pressure so difficult to manage after 60. There is a second problem with these refined seed oils, and this one is specific to cooking. These oils are chemically unstable at high heat. When you heat canola or soybean oil to frying or even moderate sautéing temperatures, the oil oxidizes. It breaks down into compounds called aldehydes. Aldehydes are directly toxic to the endothelium, the lining of your blood vessels. You cannot taste it. Your food looks and smells completely normal. but the damage accumulates with every single meal cooked in those oils. So what should you cook with instead? Two things, and I will be specific. For anything that does not require high heat, salad dressings, light sautéing, roasting at moderate temperatures, drizzling over vegetables, use extra virgin olive oil, not regular olive oil, extra virgin. It is rich in a compound called oleocanthal, which functions as a natural anti-inflammatory, and in monounsaturated fats that actively support healthy endothelial function. Decades of research, including the landmark PREDIMED trial, one of the largest cardiovascular nutrition studies ever conducted, confirm its protective effects without serious scientific debate. For higher heat cooking, use real butter, not margarine, not a spread. Real butter, preferably from grass-fed cows if you can access it and afford it. I know this contradicts what many of you were told 20 or 30 years ago, that butter was dangerous, that vegetable oils were the heart-healthy choice. That guidance, I am sorry to say, was not well supported by the evidence even then, and the research since has moved decisively in a different direction. Margarine is made from the same refined seed oils we are trying to eliminate. Real butter, in reasonable amounts, is a far better choice for your cardiovascular health. You do not need to throw out what is currently in your cupboard tomorrow. When the canola oil runs out, stop buying it. Replace it with extra virgin olive oil. That is all. One change, made once at the grocery store, with benefits that compound over months and years. Let me say these 5 strategies one final time, clearly and simply. 1. Eat your vegetables first at every meal, before the bread, before the rice, before anything else on the plate. 2. 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in a full glass of water with each meal. 3. 30 grams of walnuts, approximately 14 halves, eaten 30 minutes before you go to sleep. 4. 3 cups of hibiscus tea every day, morning, afternoon, and evening, with minimal or no sugar. 5. Replace canola and soybean oils with extra virgin olive oil for everyday cooking and real butter for high heat cooking. 5 things. No exotic supplements, no expensive equipment, nothing that requires a prescription or a specialist or a referral. Just food, used thoughtfully, consistently, and with an understanding of why it works. Now I have one more thing to tell you, and this may be the most important thing I say today. I have been a geriatric physician for 35 years. I have sat across from thousands of patients in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, people who came to me tired and frustrated and feeling like their own bodies had turned against them. People who were doing everything they had been told to do and still felt like they were losing ground. What I want you to hear is this: it is not too late. I mean that medically, not just as encouragement. Your blood vessels retain a remarkable capacity to respond to the right conditions at virtually any age. The inflammation that has been quietly building for decades does not reverse overnight, but it does reverse. Slowly, steadily, measurably, when you give your body the tools it is asking for. The woman I told you about at the beginning of this video, the one whose pressure spiked in my waiting room last Tuesday, she left my office that day with a revised care plan. Part of it involved medication adjustments, but a meaningful part of it involved sitting with her for 20 minutes and walking her through exactly what I have shared with you today. Because she deserved to have that information. She had deserved it for years. You deserve it too. If this video helped you understand your own health in a way it hasn't been explained before, please share it with someone you care about. There are people in your life right now, a spouse, a sibling, a neighbor, a dear friend, who are sitting at their kitchen table with exactly this problem and no idea that any of this exists. And before you go, I want to be clear about one thing. Everything I have shared today is based on current nutritional and geriatric research and on my clinical experience with senior patients. It is not a replacement for your personal medical care. Please do not stop, reduce, or change any medication your physician has prescribed without speaking with them first. Bring what you have heard today to your next appointment. Ask your doctor about it directly. That conversation, I promise you, is worth having. Your heart has been working for you every moment of your life without ever asking for a single thing in return. It is time to work for it. I'm Dr. Leonard Brooks. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.